And here we go once again. No big intros this week. Straight into it. The Titus and Sergio Variety Hour podcast. I'm Sergio Paradise, and here he is, one of the mates that Jordan de Goey has agreed to ditch, Titus O'Reilly.
If he's giving up drinking, I'm stopping seeing him. I'm giving up you.
Yeah, Jordan de Goey has to stay off grog for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I'm just going to drink more.
Yeah, I'll take his amount. You just follow me around and go, can I have all your drink cards now?
Yeah, whatever you were going to have this weekend, we might have it ourselves.
Well, we had 3 episodes last week.
Yeah, we did. We did 2, and you did a terrific one with Sam Lane.
Yeah, got a lot of good feedback on that.
Which I actually just got a message on Twitter last night from somebody who listened to that and said, it wasn't until 25 minutes in that I realised Serge wasn't there. Does that reflect on me or him? No, I think no. I definitely wasn't, and it was far better that I wasn't.
Well, some people know I get asked all the time to interview authors for who've got books and stuff coming out. So it's just go along and do them occasionally, and it's good being able to sort of chat to some of these people in depth.
Yeah. And not have to worry about what I might say in the background.
It's interesting, yeah. Well, that's especially, but it's interesting the authors that ask, like, say, oh, yeah, we'll do it, and the ones that just I never hear from.
Yeah, we'll call you back. Yeah, good luck with that.
We should thank our supporters once again. We really couldn't keep doing this without you. We've got plenty of stuff coming up this week as well. I'm sitting down with Martin Flanagan.
Massive Martin Flanagan.
He's got a new book out on the Western Bulldogs premiership.
Yeah, was it A Wink from the Universe? It's called.
Yeah, I've got it here somewhere.
I bought it last week, and I haven't started it yet, but I'm a massive Martin Flanagan fan.
Yeah, I can't wait
I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
I think I'm doing that Thursday. We've also got some other people joining us on the podcast on a more regular basis. We've talked about this before, but Francis Leach, Danny McGinlay are going to start coming on more regularly so we can have more episodes. We talked about that
lots of
last
different
week.
people. And
then we've got a few others we're talking to at the moment, so I can't say their names yet because they haven't necessarily agreed.
Because we haven't rung them and asked them yet. But we...
they've said, we'll ring you back.
Yeah, call you back and that...
But we should say we're trying to expand it out to do a few different things just to have... Yeah. Because we often find it hard to do 2 a week every single week, although we'll still try, and especially during AFL season. Yeah. But you and I will still do our own one-on-ones regularly each week, So
on a Monday or Tuesday.
So this is getting more stuff, we're changing the whole thing.
Yeah, we're trying to expand, as I've said, turn the Variety Hour into some kind of media conglomerate.
That's good.
To eventually to sell out to Google or Mark Zuckerberg or someone.
I'm looking forward to you're going to start doing just yourself spoken word 4-hour sessions.
I'll just read some poetry like John Laws used to do. The Man from Snowy River.
I tell you what, I don't know if I'd listen weekly, but I would definitely tune in to hear the first iteration of you reading poetry. If people want to send in a poem for Serge to read...
I'm happy to read it.
You do some good voiceover work.
I'm happy to read your poem.
You've got that deep voice.
Yeah. It's like the guy who used to... Captain Testicles, they used to call him, from Triple M in Sydney, who had the deepest voice in the history of the world. And they used to...
And why did they call him and was he called Captain Testicles for other reasons?
Yeah, it would have nothing to
you
do
never
with
know Triple M in Sydney.
To do with his voice.
I still like to remind people that you auditioned and were considered for the role of Bob Morrison, the talking dog, on Channel 9.
I can't believe I actually told you that story.
And the thing I think is the greatest thing about that is I think that show wouldn't have... It's known as one of the greatest flops in Australian television history. I think it lasted... 1
season, barely.
And it was like 6 episodes or something.
Yeah, they didn't even get a dozen.
I think they pulled it early or something.
Yeah.
But I still think, imagine it, like your voice coming out of that dog.
Well, that's right.
I think would have made it a much bigger...
As I said, the producer said after I did the audition, he said, well, it's a little white, sort of snappy, yappy, exciting-looking dog, and you just sound like an old bloodhound lying on a couch.
Oh, it sounded like that little dog had drunk Jim Beam and smoked a packet of Winnie Blues before he opened his mouth.
Well, Bob Morrison would have been a far more interesting character if that had been the case.
I think so too. I think this is where they missed out.
A drunken dog would have been a lot funnier.
I should also mention, as I always do at the start, that I'm doing the Melbourne Comedy Festival and the Sydney Comedy Festival.
That'd be coming around pretty soon, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm starting to think about writing the show.
Yeah, it might be.
Which worries me because I did go and see Danny McGinlay do some stand-up about a week ago. He was doing his pre-festival, running through some new material.
They test material. I know Will Anderson's big on that. He'll do an off-Broadway kind
Yeah, so this was like a Tuesday night. You could get often at the Imperial Hotel in Melbourne. You can go along on Tuesday nights, and they have these warm-up ones. So you're not
prepared to.
And he was
prepare stuff.
He was so good.
Yeah.
And I thought, he's there, and
I'll just knock something together and go with it live.
I'll just riff. No, I always sit down and do
riff.
I'll just riff.
If
I get in trouble,
I'll Chris Rock O'Reilly.
If I get in trouble, I'll just start telling your stories about you at Channel 9, your Channel 9 days. That's when you know I'm dying on stage. When I go, hey, did you know Sergio almost became Bob Morrison? But when we finished that, I have got a bit written. I do know it. I tend to write it like always. My show's about a week or so before.
You can be more topical then, can't you?
Well, that's the thing.
When if you'd written this 2 weeks ago, there'd be no Jordan to Goey.
Well, this is the thing about I've found with this doing sporting, allegedly comedy, is whenever I started to I do a lot of gigs now, like corporate gigs. Sometimes I've done some lot for some of the AFL clubs and stuff like that. And then when I do the live shows and that is, it's all out of date, like within.
Yeah.
So I went to do a gig. I got asked to do a gig for Fremantle at the end of last year on the Oval on Subiaco.
Yes.
They had their end of year thing there, and so I gathered some of the material from, like, I'd done a show about 2 months earlier. So I thought, have I got anything from there I can use? Because if I can get out of doing work, I will.
Yeah.
And it was all kind of already out of date.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't. Some of it, like Collingwood stuff is pretty universal. But for instance, Richmond stuff now, it just. That was your that was your lazy go-to joke, Richmond Football Club, and they've just ruined it.
There's so much resentment because of their success, and you can only milk that so far.
Well, you can't milk much, can you?
No, exactly.
It's terrible. Exactly. They just didn't think of me when they won that. So anyway, but I know. So you have to kind of do it. So that I'll be sitting down and doing that. But anyway, that's not the best sell. Come see my show, which I haven't even started working on.
No.
So thanks, Serge, for taking me down that path.
No, let's just say it'll be better than it sounds so far.
We might put that on the poster. No, it'll be good fun. I do enjoy doing those. We have it's 21 nights I'm doing.
21 nights? You haven't worked 21 nights in your life, have you? Let alone in a row.
Although getting up and just talking to a bunch of people in a pub.
It's not exactly digging ditches, is it?
No, that's pretty. I mean, people act like it's incredibly hard, but really, what's the worst can happen? You can be humiliated in front of a room full of people. Well, I used to do that for free at the pub on a Saturday night.
Well, it's no coincidence that in comedy terms they use the words kill or die, depending on your performance. Yeah. You either kill or you die, or you get killed.
Yeah.
So either way, it's worth
Can't
watching.
Wait to kill one time. So this brings us back. We know footy season. You can tell that some seasons, certain things might herald their arrival. The swallows returning to nest.
Yes.
Might herald spring is finally coming. Maybe the first browning of the leaves.
Yeah.
And for footy season, it's the Jordan de Goey scandal, which is now the annual Jordan. It's good when it's the annual Jordan de Goey scandal.
It's almost 12 months of the day.
It is. It's like spot on. So
fantastic.
For those that don't,
set your watch by him.
You can. And for those that don't know, he was caught drink driving, returning a blood alcohol reading of 0.095, which is high because it's 0.05 is the limit.
Twice the limit.
Except I think someone was saying he's still on his P, so he's meant to have zero.
Oh, exactly. This is where you've got to question his judgment. Not that you wouldn't question his judgment anyhow, but it's one thing to go, look, I haven't had a drink for 5 or 6 hours, I think I'll be fine to drive. You can make that call and be slightly wrong, but not when you know that your limit is 0.
That's right.
You have to say whatever happens.
But also, with what went on with him last year, where he went out, he punched someone, broke his hand, then blamed the dog.
Yeah. Which
is the thing you can apparently do at Collingwood. and his problem is he didn't stick to that story like Jeremy Howe did.
Yeah.
And then he got caught lying, or basically had to confess. So he's already got all those issues.
He's got some form.
Yeah. How hard is it to get an Uber? That's the thing today too. It's not like taxis in my day were always in my day. My day's over. But, now that the Ubers are just so easy, taxis are everywhere, but also Ubers, they're cheap and...
It's an app on your phone.
Yeah, you don't have to even ring anyone.
You don't have to ring anyone. You just flick it. And the young folk are pretty good with their apps on their phones.
I've heard that.
And so there is absolutely no excuse not to be getting an Uber home,
Liam Briggs wrote in, is Jordan honouring Chinese New Year by not blaming his dog in his latest run-in with the law?
Nice question,
It is
Liam.
the year of the dog, Liam, so well done.
Yeah, and Chinese New Year just gone past, so yeah, clever question.
It is amazing how often dogs get involved in sporting scandals.
Say,
the NRL has they don't blame them.
Yeah, they don't blame the dog.
They do something else. But it has come up a lot.
Don't blame the dog. The dogs blame them.
That's right. So Daniel Kennedy wrote in, are these fake news stories about Jordan de Goey actually being generated in a Russian troll factory? # St. Petersburg.
Oh, Daniel, you're taking the whole thing far too seriously.
It's interesting. He's been suspended indefinitely.
Yeah, which could be.
Did you think that? And he got fined $10,000.
$10,000, and he's had to pay 10 to a charity.
Is that on top of it?
On top of the 10.
Oh, so it's a 20 grand whack.
It's a 20 grand whack. And he's got to work away from the footy club for 4 weeks. That'll be interesting.
Doing what? Driving an Uber?
Well, he's been told he has to get a job for 4 weeks outside the footy club. I mean...
Work at the local milk bar? That makes no sense
he won't
at
be
all.
Driving an Uber, as you say, because he's lost his licence for 6 months. But the thing is, if he's going to go for a job outside, what's your experience? I played for Collingwood until... Saturday night,
And I can do this job for 4 weeks.
For 4 weeks, and then I'm out, and then I'm back. And
is it a volunteer charity job? That would make more sense.
It would, but they've said he has to get a job somewhere outside, which probably means, one of the sponsors will get him into the office for a couple of weeks. But so he's been suspended indefinitely, which you wonder, will that suddenly be just up until round 1?
Well, this is the thing. Indefinitely, you can't really criticise it for being too long or too short yet, because you don't know. They've just delayed it.
It's too soft, unless they do say by the week after the JLT series, they go, you know what? He's seen the light. He's a changed man. He's back. He'll be back for round 1.
Well, it depends a bit too, on how they go in. If they start maybe 2-0, then they're not in quite the rush. Yeah. And if they suddenly are 0-2 or 0-3, suddenly everyone's going.
De Goey would have been handy, but no.
It's a betrayal of trust.
A betrayal of trust. They've got some form.
That's assuming
Collingwood.
Yeah. They do. They have had a lot of this. It's funny for a club that talks about culture all the time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Collingwood like that, I mean, and it goes back to, when Heath Shaw got caught lying to the club about, being in the car accident, and then...
So you're saying this is all Eddie's fault, yeah? This is a roundabout way?
The thing is, you wonder whether it's the club's fault, because they know they're going to come down that hard. The players think, I have to lie to avoid the punishment. And then, of course, the punishment gets twice as strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just goes back, they're not that smart to begin with.
No, I think you're right there. Steak Sandwedge wrote in, with De Goey expected to have some time on his hands, could Bomber Thompson write him into his new sitcom, Bandito About the House? I just like the concept of Bandito About the House. The crazy comedy of Bomber Thompson living with a bikie.
Of an estranged football coach.
Channel 9 probably, or if the minute they've heard this, have greenlit that as a, as a problem. And if you could chuck in a many years older Bob Morrison, voiced by Sergio Paradise, into that. I'm watching that. I can't see that not winning.
I could have been the dog blamed by Jordan de Goey. I'm happy to play that role.
Now, we all know AFLX was on the weekend, and everyone's been just lining up to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, you know, the one thing I will say, and this is something that everyone can take away with them, it's only about 360 days until AFLX is back. You work that one out? It's not far away. It's less than a year.
You're crossing them off on the calendar.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask you first. What did you make of it?
Look, everyone, my problem with AFLX all along has been I don't see the point of it. Like, what the problem they're trying to solve, or the opportunities they think are there, I don't think are there. Yeah. And so, therefore, I just think it's taking away from the AFLW. I think it's taking away from investing in things like Tasmania. Problems that, you know, grassroots football, all these things that the AFL should be spending its time on, right? So that's my problem with it. In terms of the actual game, was it awful? No, it wasn't. Like, a lot of people were saying it was unwatchable and terrible. It was not terrible, but it wasn't great either. It was just it was incredible in its averageness, because it is basically a glorified training run. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It just I
think it improved over the nights, but you're right. My thing with it is it wasn't that bad that everyone expected it to be, but it certainly wasn't that great either.
With some absolute terrible bits to it.
Yeah, it was just bland. It was beige, the whole thing. And I think the first night, it just looked like circle work, you know, between two teams. You know, it was like a training drill with, you know, one half the players have got the coloured bibs, the others have just got the colours on. The second night, there was a bit more contested work.
But not much. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's sort of taken away the key bits of the game that are great, which is like the tackling, the contested work, and the high marks. They had none of them.
It was, you take a very exciting game and remove all the exciting bits. Yeah. You know? They want to get that back. They need to add a couple more players to the ground, maybe change a couple of rules. But as you say, look, I'm in total agreement. I didn't think it was that tragic as a spectacle, but it certainly wasn't that great as a spectacle either.
It still falls into the pointless.
Yeah, exactly. It's
that's the problem. Like,
the thing is, the AFL now, they've managed to convince themselves just how brilliant it was, which now you know that there's going to be a heap more people hired. They're going to be spending more money on this. They've already got a head of AFLX. Work that out. It should have just been, you know.
I think it's a work experience.
A bloke in the office, you know, should have been doing that in his spare time. But the head of AFLX, they're already talking about next year it'll be in Hong Kong. So it's the thin edge of the wedge. Next year it'll be in Hong Kong. The year after that, they'll have training camps in New York, photo opportunities in London.
But
you know,
the executives
they'll be playing in Vegas.
In business do start to, even though that might not be what it started to be about. Yeah. Suddenly, in their mind, they got, we got this trip to Hong Kong. Great, I can take the family and we'll go to Hong Kong, and I'm all paid for, and you know, and it does suddenly start to become a thing for them where that becomes a nice junket. So
you can see the junkets.
The things that bothered me about it. So, you know, just more in the short term, they could fix like the silver ball they got rid of, because that was just stupid, and Port Adelaide wearing the exact same colour as the ball was just absurd. So credit to them, they got rid of it.
Couldn't they have tested that ball beforehand, do you reckon?
Well, the whole thing is like,
with it, you know?
Everyone's worked with a boss who just has ideas.
Yeah.
Stupid ideas, and we all just wait 5 minutes for them to forget about it and the actual job. But at the AFL, it's like they do actually execute on those ideas. So someone went, we should have a silver ball. Done. Yeah, I've spoken to Sharon, it's done.
Yeah, I've rung my mate at Sharon and we've got 500 of them been delivered.
Yeah, so that was
they won't arrive until the day before we start, so we can't have a kick with them, but trust me, they'll be fine.
The other thing that really bothered me was, well, I mean, you got JB and Brian Taylor commentating, which I thought was actually the perfect soundtrack for AFLX, but Brian Taylor's constantly going on of Zupa goals and being a Zupa specialist and all this. When you consider a Zupa goal is a 40-metre goal.
which is not a massive challenge to a professional footballer.
It's not like you like. I can understand like someone kicks it from 50 out, but 40 out, and while not a certainty or super easy, at the same time is not something that we just. It's not like you go, oh my, he cooked at 40 metres.
For professional AFL football,
it's not.
It's not a huge ask, but they can't have it 50 or 60 metres.
Because it'd be halfway.
The whole damn field was only 100 metres long.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of a bit crazy. And then the other thing that just drove me mad, not just because it was so, is they just constantly, the coverage, it was like they'd been given the memo, which they probably had, in the AFL, which was either the commentators constantly talking about how great it was.
Yep.
And then everyone they interviewed, oh, yeah, what do you think of the AFLX? And everyone would say the exact same thing. Oh, I think it's exciting. I think we've got to try new things.
Yeah.
Like, they all... And you're just going...
And every player, as they walked off the ground, I really enjoyed it. We're really finding it enjoyable.
And I just wanted one person, just one, I didn't care who it was, to go, it's okay.
Yeah.
Or,
it's just...
Because surely someone is thinking that. Like, I just don't believe everyone was. It was such a, it's like that. If all the politicians on the day get up and say the same line, they've all just been given the lines to read. Yeah. Well, this is what this was like. Everyone was saying the exact same thing.
Everyone had the same spin going on. And the other thing was those two stupid pipes behind the goals. Every time there was a Zupa goal, would fire out
the
steam in the shape of an X.
Yeah.
And the glow-in-the-dark light-up goalposts was another thing you could not see.
No.
You could not see that for love nor money.
The also had the sponsorship logos that they were projecting on, which looked terrible. That looked awful, but I think they toned that down a bit on the second night.
I mean, that's not uncommon these days. In rugby league, they do that all the time because in New South Wales, actually painting them on the ground is a bit too complicated for them.
There's often not grass at some of those.
And you've got to do it on a certain angle.
It is, so it's all kind of very... It was just a bizarre thing. I still think it took away from... I watched, in the AFLW, the Crows match.
Yeah.
Which was 1,000 times more exciting and more passion than anything the AFLX
I didn't see that
did.
one. I watched the Freo Melbourne game.
Well, that was a good game too, apart from the outcome.
The Carlton game was a dog. But the Melbourne Freo game was a good game of footy, actually.
Yeah, there were some good games over the weekend. So, anyway, it was strange.
And sorry, just on the AFL women's matches, the most important difference, and you were just alluding to it there, is that just in 24 hours, two different, wholly different games, you could see that one's mattered to people playing and watching.
Yeah.
And the women's games were no different to when the men's season starts properly. They actually mattered to the players, the staff, the coaches, and the spectators.
Yeah.
Whereas AFLX was purely... It reminded me of, when you go to the MCG, they have that kids' playground outside where you can run.
I don't hang around that a lot.
You were warned off there when you were taking photos with your phone without having a child next to you. Where you can go down there and you can have a big leap and you can take a specky on the back of an inflatable player and all that, which kids love. It felt to me just like that. It had about as much depth as the AFL kids playground.
Well, the AFLX, the main thing it had is a lot of running. So if you like just a lot of running, great. But look, it was fine. But again, I just don't know what the point is. No. And when I say fine, I don't mean fine like it was just average. It wasn't fine like I was good.
The point is for them to find a way to play, a hybrid of AFL footy in places where there are no AFL footy grounds, basically.
But see, I think AFLX works a bit like AFL 9s and there's other versions of it, right? That sport of AFLX could be fine to roll out at a social, like what social netball is, like for people who are probably the level below, or just amateurs who just want to playing it at school. We used to play versions of AFLX, to be honest, at school.
Yeah.
We used to have 2 tennis courts at the school I was at.
Yeah.
And the nets were always down because we just used it it wasn't grass.
So you
it was
had like a
synthetic grass.
60-metre playing field.
And, we just play in there.
That's not a bad idea.
Because it had nets around it so the ball wouldn't go too far, and we just play in there and it was fine.
There you go.
But it was just exactly what that was. But no one wanted to watch it.
No, you certainly wouldn't go.
We got lots of questions. Chris D wrote in, would AFLX be more interested if the players were all at Jordan to Goey levels of intoxication?
Well, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm suddenly...
Everybody drunk.
Drunk AFLX.
And I just wouldn't stop there. I'd include the umpires in that. The commentators. I mean, we do know that AFLX is better when the spectators are drunk. But yeah, I like what Chris is suggesting there.
Anthony wrote in, does Melbourne's success in winning an AFLX trophy vindicate the playing group's decision to walk out on pre-season boot camp last year? I think so.
That almost sounds like a serious, proper question. And,
it doesn't really.
I think you're right, Anthony.
Yeah, it's all starting to come together.
It just proved that the whole boot camp idea was a bad one. And now they've got, something for the trophy cabinet to prove it.
Taylor Brasser wrote, how did you and Serge celebrate Melbourne's AFLX win? Gee, I got to say, the ankle tat's hurting this morning.
That big, and that, I also found that a big X on your neck is not the best look either.
For your job. For your job interview today.
Yeah.
It was, look, it was fine. I mean, I felt like we won training.
Yeah, it was. I did get some satisfaction out of beating Hawthorn because it just proved that the merger was never.
Well, Stephen Quartermain said, that's revenge. Said to me, that's revenge for
1988. Yeah,
and I was like,
by 120 points.
Yeah, it's like, sweet revenge. We played a long game at Melbourne. We waited for a whole nother format of the game to be created. It wasn't. Look, it was fine. Whatever. I don't.
Yeah, I didn't get too excited about it, I've got to say.
Norm wrote in, did any of the AFLX winners bother to take their premiership trophies back to the club? And will anybody ever bother to look for them in the future if they did?
I'm tipping, Norm, that in years to come, these will be a great piece of memorabilia because the clubs will lose them and they'll turn up,
just for the hilarity.
On eBay somewhere or in a porn.
Especially if it fails.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. If these were the only 3 AFLX premiership trophies ever awarded, it'll be like, Bradman's baggy green. It'll go down. Maybe not as valuable as Bradman's baggy green.
But just as holy.
Yeah.
Dita wrote in, will AFLX traditionalists be demanding the return of the silver footballs for AFLX Heritage Round next year?
I just like the idea of an AFLX Heritage Round celebrating the rich tapestry of its history.
They all wear what the marketing people were wearing when they smoke cones to come up with the idea. Jim Woodcock wrote in, does anybody want to buy 1,000 silver Sharons? Asking for a friend. Andrew Byrne wrote in, can I use AFLX as a word in Scrabble? If so, is a triple word score therefore a Zuper?
It's a good question.
The Zuper was a terrible... That spot... I mean, I made a joke last year.
Yeah.
This is where satire is completely dead. I made a joke in a column I wrote about whether the AFL should introduce red and yellow cards. Remember that was being debated after the bug incidents and the Basher Hooley and there was
Jordan
a few
Lewis from Melbourne players.
Everyone belting everyone. So there was that debate came up again, and I was saying, this thing about how AFL, if they did bring in a red and yellow card, it wouldn't just be red and yellow. They'd have purple and green, and because they overcomplicate everything. Yeah. And one of the ones I had was, and they'd also get each card sponsored.
Yeah, of course.
And so someone would go, he's been shown the Carlton draft red card. That would be the... So that was the joke I made because of the AFL's ability to just try and monetize everything. Yet they've literally done it in AFL.
They have already.
And I just it was so bad.
And the old Zuper Duper, I thought they Big Bash League sponsored, but that was last season, weren't they?
That was last season.
That was last season. So the one thing...
They backed the winner this year, the Zuper Duper marketing team.
The Zuper Duper, they've got money to spend. down there.
A lot of money in Super Dupers, frozen ice. Well, I guess all ice is frozen.
That's true.
Technically. Craigie Foster wrote in, now that the AFLX will conquer the world, will Qatar be hosting the first AFLX World Cup?
First thing I'll say to you, Craigie, drop the Y. Where do you think you are in the Winter Olympics team? Yeah.
Hey, our old mate Chumpy.
Yeah.
He's once again didn't really do particularly well.
No, he never does.
What's his name? Got second, who we talked about last week.
Oh, was that Matt Graham?
Was it Matt Graham, the snowboarder, who got home second? No. He apparently hates the rest of the team, and the rest of the team hate him, including Chumpy.
Well, Chumpy hates him, and he hates Chumpy. So, that's a good thing to know. At least,
They asked him about it. Someone asked him about it, and they said, why do you hate Chumpy? And he didn't say the obvious answer, because his name is Chumpy.
He calls himself Chumpy. Yeah.
That's legit. That's a legit. He had that perfect answer.
What is he? He's in grade 1. Get away with it.
Senor Hias, whose defence would you rather have, an AFLX side or an NBA All-Star side? Defence was not a key thing.
It wasn't. And what the good Senor is getting at here is that NBA All-Star games, which would just happen yesterday, they're traditionally, there is no defence, as they call it in basketball, whatsoever there.
Yeah.
So the winning score, it's always like 140 to 138.
Oh, no one cares. And
it's just a putting on a show.
You could tell no
quarters.
One wanted to get injured. And who can blame them? Yeah. I mean, everyone was like...
Oh, the last thing you'd want, from a club's point of view is... Which is why most of the teams didn't play any of their big names.
Because I worry about this all the time, Christian Petrarca with his knee.
Yeah.
I was like, why is he out there? And then why is Tom McDonald out there?
Yeah.
Like Melbourne actually put on the park some players.
Bug being out there and...
I couldn't care less. He's going to get suspended for half the year anyway. So.
And Neil Bullen and Stretch and these guys, they're not in your best 22.
No.
But Petrarca wasn't.
Petrarca and Tom McDonald.
And I have to say, the much maligned, mainly by me, Jake Melksham. He was pretty handy the other night, I've got to say.
Yeah.
He may have found his position
He's found
in
his sport.
In a sport with no defence whatsoever.
David Berkelmans wrote in, are you concerned that after Melbourne's success, there may be a premiership hangover in the 2018 season? I got to say, everything from now on is just gravy.
Yeah, after it's all downhill from here.
The AFLW we talked about, they had some issues at it's now called Icon Park, which is Prince's
Park, isn't it?
Yeah, but they change sponsors, every 5 minutes.
But do they still have the John Elliott stand?
No, it got name taken off.
Knocked down, didn't it?
Yeah, I've got a bit about John Elliott in my second book I'm writing at the moment, so I've just been researching all of that again.
That'd be interesting.
Oh, yeah. When you realise some of the
bits that you don't put in your book are the bits I probably
want to read. Mate, I've got a bit in my next book about, and this is not what the whole book's about, but, just some of the entrepreneurs and business people that get involved in Australian sport. Yeah. And they're all wild. Because you've had, you think about it, you had Bond, Skase owned the Bears.
Yeah, he did too.
Fitzroy were briefly owned technically because of their debts by the island of Nauru. That was Jeffrey Edelstein owned the Swans. This is all in the same period of a few years.
And that other guy took over from the Bears, took over from Skase.
That was
Bernie Rubenstein or something like that?
No, his another name. He was a Gold Coast developer, and
he's a White Shoe Brigade type.
Well, I think that you're just describing everyone in Gold Coast, but I forget his name. I've got it written down. But so they had all of that, and then more recently, you've had Nathan Tinkler.
Yeah,
that's a crazy story, Yeah. So
that bloke in New Zealand,
and then the John Elliott stuff.
He tried to buy a rugby side in New Zealand, I think.
Yeah, Tinkler's an amazing story, but the John Elliott at Carlton still is
possibly the only one of those sort of very rich entrepreneurial types who has been involved in sport sort of in recent times who has not yet disgraced himself as Andrew Forrest, Twiggy Forrest. He seems to be the one.
But even he was pretty funny in that when he was all getting fired up about the Western Force and then threatened to do a breakaway league.
Yeah.
Clive Palmer, that was another one.
Yeah, as soon as any of these guys bring up the phrase breakaway league, you know it's going to end in tears.
And I think Twiggy Forrest has got, at least he's still got the money, unlike, Palmer went incredibly quiet on his alternative, his Football Australia.
I'm still waiting for his Titanic to come out, his new Titanic.
Yeah, it's almost like that. So anyway, getting back to Icon Park, as it's now known, the Brisbane Lions played Carlton there, and it was at night. And basically, the lighting was terrible.
Did you see any of this?
Yeah. I was watching it just at kind of.
It was a joke.
Well, I thought at first it was just, sometimes on television it maybe wasn't coming across, but then they started mentioning how it is. Apparently, the Australian standard for sports lighting.
Yeah.
It dictates that professional competitions will be played under an illuminance of 500 lux.
Right. And being in Australia, there'd have to be a bureaucratic standard.
Oh, yeah. And the match practice can be played under 200 lux.
So what do you reckon it was at Princes Park?
Well, being completely untrained and having no idea, I think it was about 197.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
You don't know.
It didn't get anywhere near 500.
And again, this stems back to what I said before about the stupid silver footies in AFLX.
Yeah.
Surely someone at the AFL, I said, hey, we're going to be playing under lights on Saturday night. Can we actually get some lights?
Yeah, that's right.
Are there any lights?
Well, they did put some lights up. So they did put up a few sort of those temporary floodlights.
Yeah, but that's fine if you're having a 21st in your backyard. But I wouldn't be playing a whole game of footy under them.
No, that was right. So it really wasn't that good, and there was concerns about what could happen. Now, they said that the reason it had been scheduled at night is the fixture plays a big part in the TV schedule, obviously. John Hartwig wrote in, AFL claims lighting for AFLW night matches is not in the budget. Who scheduled the matches, and were they aware that it gets dark at night?
Yeah.
Now, it wouldn't be beyond you and I to believe that someone is in at AFL House right now as we speak, explaining the concept of night to some of their
night and day.
And they were like, I just always assume it's always light at the MCG.
Yeah, it's fine. It reminds me of that classic episode of Yes Minister when Sir Humphrey had to explain to the minister that the new hospital they just built worked at its most efficient when it had no patients.
Yeah, that's right.
Or doctors.
Whose benchmarks were off the chart.
Doctors, specialists, anaesthetists. Yeah. All these things cost money.
Yeah.
It works better without them.
And patients are very inefficient.
Yeah,
I don't know, though. There's a lot of complaints about this from Brisbane were complaining about this a lot, and Carlton too, and saying this is not ideal.
There's been a lot of injuries in the women's game lately, but they'd be mighty glad that none of the girls
got injured,
pinged a knee or something the other night.
Craig Sasovich, the coach of the Brisbane Lions women's team, was furious about it. But I don't know, first they complain about wanting to have their league, we give it to them.
Yeah.
Now they're complaining about wanting lighting. Gee, does it ever stop? Now it's too dark. Does it ever stop? What do these guys want? Equality or something? It's just madness. Now, one of my favourite stories, I don't know why, but the minute I read this story, it made me think of you.
All right.
And it happened in the Winter Olympics, which I know you're a huge Winter Olympics fan, as anyone who listens to this podcast regularly knows.
Well, I've been right into it, but I've got to say, my interest is waning a bit.
Just slightly. You know how I knew it was waning when I didn't watch any of it last night?
Yeah.
Didn't even have it on in the background. And then I got up this morning and flicked the news on, and they said, no medals overnight for the Australians, but some, I think they said, some brave performances. Yeah. And I just went, that sums up these Winter Olympics.
Somebody who didn't make the finals again.
Yeah. So, but over the night, it was announced that the Court of Arbitration for Sport, who the CAS, we all know very well from our Essendon saga and Cronulla sagas in Australia, they've launched a doping procedure, so I guess an investigation, into Russian Olympic medalists. So there's some of the Russians been banned, but there's some athletes from Russia allowed to perform. Yeah,
they're competing at these Winter Olympics, but not under the official Russian flag. They're just athletes from Russia.
So they've caught one of their members Alexander Krushelnitsky caught doping. Now, you'll never guess.
Dodgy Krushelnitskys.
Yeah. You'll never guess what sport he plays that he's suspected of testing positive for meldonium, which is the same thing that Maria Sharapova, another Russian,
and what does it do for you?
I think this increases blood flow and improves your exercise capacity. But the sport...
Well, I'm assuming if it increases your blood flow and your exercise capacity, Krushelnitsky, he must, I don't know, what, a long-distance skier, a snowboarder,
close,
a downhiller.
Close.
Yeah.
Curling.
Well, of course, that's where you need your extra blood flow. and you
for all that fast sweeping.
Exercise capacity. Oh, look.
So he's been caught doping in the curling. Like, that is the silliest thing.
And he's an Olympic medalist. It's
amazing.
He's been getting on the gear to improve.
He won bronze with his wife in the mixed doubles. There's mixed doubles curling.
and you do it with your wife.
It's like...
Tell you what, Dale, things have been getting a bit dull.
Let's spice up our marriage.
Let's spice up, the marriage. You get out that big heavy iron thing. I'll take over the broom. We'll get together.
Do you think if you and I, our relationship, the podcast ever gets into trouble, we'll take up curling together to sort of get us over the hump?
I reckon we could do it and make the side anyway. Does Australia even have a curling team?
I think it is just voted on by social media.
Yeah, I think we could get in next time.
Rob,
I'll be prepared to get on the gear too.
Well, you getting on the gear, you've never not been prepared to get on the gear. Rob Craig wrote in, is there a sport that is more pointless to dope in than curling? I think that...
Hard to imagine.
Darts?
Well, so the good thing about darts is that the competitors, sculling schooners while they're actually competing.
There's no... And tobacco and alcohol was banned. Darts would be over overnight.
Of course it would. And, there'd be less all-in brawls.
I can't think of many sports where...
It's more pointless than curling. Yeah, it's hard to imagine.
It's right up the top.
Yeah.
One thing that I know you've been all over, got launched late last week, is a new thing called the E-League.
E-League, not the A-League.
Not the A-League, the E-League. Now, the E-League has been launched by the Football Federation of Australia, who run soccer or football in this country, depending on what term you want to use and who you want to annoy. And they have announced a new competition called the E-League, which is broadcast live on their website and over a service called Twitch, which is a website and streaming service online for games. Yeah. And it's playing the popular FIFA 18 on PlayStation or Xbox.
So it's not real football. No, it's computer games. Soccer, it's a computer.
And they play with the actual A-League's teams. Each A-League team chooses who's going to play for them, so who's a great gamer.
Yeah.
And that's what they play. Now, what's interesting about that, and then people watch this, can you believe?
Yeah. And as we've said before, not necessarily in reference to this new E-League, but this whole thing of it's become a huge spectator sport of people watching other people play video games, which I guess it's a bit like Gogglebox in a way. But again, it's very smart because the audience, they've played this game. They know what they're doing. But they realise that they're not nearly as good as the people playing it there. Which in itself is not different, much different to a real sport.
Well, so this is the bit that caught my attention and was interesting about this is, so they've launched this and it attracted a larger audience than the average viewers for the actual A-League.
Right. Okay, now I know where you're going. So people in Australia, you soccer fans, are far more interested in watching a couple of young nerds play soccer on their PlayStation than actually watching the Sydney FC versus the Melbourne Victory.
That's right. That's right.
That's perfectly understandable.
That skill level is higher on the computer game. It is amazing though, isn't it? They said that
look at the numbers. It didn't just...
over more than 4 hours broadcast live, it attracted 138,000 viewers
on the streaming.
On the streaming. Now, the average A-League audience on Fox Sports is 119,000.
And I reckon they're being generous on that Fox Sports number too.
The way it's been going. You're a ratings truther. You don't believe what they're saying.
I don't believe what they're saying. So what does this mean for the future of soccer in this country?
Well, it's just amazing that, like, imagine the FFA ended up in a position in a few years where their most lucrative part of their business was not their actual sporting competition, but the computer game.
A computer-generated version.
It's totally possible. Well, especially with, like,
of course it is.
A-League and others. AFL, it's harder to see in NRL because the games for them are usually not that great. And also, people...
NBA 2K, that could work.
People! This is a huge thing that's happening around the world. My favourite sentence in this article, where I was reading some of this, is the E-League will also serve as qualification for the FIFA E-World Cup.
Oh, of course there is.
Esports has been flagged to enter the 2024 Olympics in Paris.
Okay, so if FIFA are organising an E-World Cup, that means. Does that mean all the bribes have to be paid in Bitcoin, in virtual currency?
I like that. The other thing I think is, do you think, you know how you had the Tiger Woods, the dad made him play golf all his life? Do you think we'll soon have dads saying to their sons, get back in your room and get on FIFA?
Get on FIFA.
Why are you outside?
Yeah. We don't need those goal posts out there. We don't need the net, the ball. Get back in on your FIFA. Tell you
Drink some Coke. You need to stay up tonight and play some more hours.
They want to introduce that video game Fortnite. I'm
aware of it. I don't know much about it. Why is that what your kid play?
Yeah, and that's just aimless violence, shooting people, basically.
Right.
So, I'm sure that's, the next thing on FIFA's, agenda. But if the Football Federation of Australia are that serious, it means they might be able to replace their CEO with an avatar, and it would probably actually work a lot better than it has.
David Gallop.
Yeah.
Sean Brennan wrote in, and this is, I think, a key point here of the whole story. Did the FFA deliberately schedule the launch of the E-League on Thursday in an attempt to disrupt AFLX?
Geez, there's been a lot of disruption.
I like these conspiracy theories.
So the AFLX was put on there to disrupt the AFLW.
Yeah.
But the E-League was put on to disrupt the AFLX.
That's right.
I don't know, where the buck stops on this one.
No, it's everyone. It's layers within layers. Yeah. It's like watching Inception. Great news for the Hawthorn Football Club, which I know, and if anyone sorely needs it, it's the success to have Hawthorn fans.
They're still reeling from their defeat by Melbourne in the AFLX the other night. But,
just been downhill. Yeah. One of their key benefactors is donating $10 million to the club to help them fund their shift to their new Dingley headquarters.
And we need to congratulate the great Steve Quartermain for dipping into his super there to support his much loved Hawks.
It's
$10 million to quarters is change down the back of the couch.
He would not even notice it.
He wouldn't notice it.
No, it was actually former Hawthorn Vice President and Flight Centre co-founder Jeff Harris who's committed a $10 million donation. He says it's seeding capital to get the project started.
Right. Wouldn't be tax deductible, would it, being seeding capital?
I don't know. I doubt it.
See, that's the way the world goes these days. I'm so cynical, I just automatically think he's doing it
for a tax dodge.
A tax dodge, yeah.
I think he's just got so much money and that...
You'd have to have some money in the bank, wouldn't you, to be just writing
$10 million to your footy club.
To your footy club, yeah.
The cash-strapped Hawthorn Football Club. Now, the Hawks want to move to Dingley, and they reckon it's going to cost them up to $100 million potentially. So it's a huge amount of money.
Have you been to Dingley? You could buy the suburb for $100 million.
Hello, and goodbye to the people from Dingley listening to this. You don't like Dingley? We haven't done the old, do you like this place search recently?
There's nothing wrong with Dingley. Dingley's.
What was the nightclub in Dingley? Was it The Edge or something?
No, there was... and I think it's still there, a big beer barn called the Dingley International. And if you've ever driven past it, no building has ever looked less international than the Dingley International.
So he's given the money to help them get it off the ground, this $10 million, to get them started, but they still need to raise the funds for this. So, look, wouldn't it be terrible if that project sent Hawthorn broke.
Yeah, or I'd like to see him get started and it just stop halfway, and then and then the developers come in and turn it into apartments. Yeah.
Dylan Walton wrote in, and this is what I like about our show because it really gives a platform for people to air the big issues.
Yeah.
If Jeff Harris is putting in $10 million, this is what Dylan writes, if Jeff Harris is putting in $10 million to fund Hawthorn's Dingley site, any chance he can chuck a few bucks in to widen Centre Dandenong Road leading into the roundabout at that intersection, as well as a right-hand turn lane leading into the 7-Eleven? Thanks.
Dylan, he's very specific in what he reckons money should go.
Well, Dylan, I've got to say, if there's one way to get your message to Jeff Harris, it's through this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. He is right. I know what he's talking about. I know exactly the intersection he is talking about here.
You do know this one?
Road, yeah. There is a roundabout at that intersection. I wasn't aware that it was that close to where Hawthorn are planning this big building. So I do know where he
Maybe it's nowhere near it. He's just asking generally.
I think he just really needs a right-hand lane into the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, I know how to say for his
he doesn't really care
he's got
about
the munchies. No, I think he just thinks that it's a chance. This podcast is a chance to send in your ideas for what you'd like Jeff Harris to fund.
Yeah. Or we can pass that on to the state government, who are probably, could...
They're keen for ideas like that.
Instead of the right-hand turn into the 7-Eleven, they're going to put some Skyrail in there.
Everything soon will just be Skyrail.
Yeah, the whole state will be Skyrail.
We get into our general listener questions. Robert Hand, we've got a couple of questions here that are similar, so I might do them both before you respond. One is, can Serge explain mogul skiing? And the second one is, did you know under every one of those moguls is a mogul buried? Not a lot of people know that's where it gets its name from. Andrew Meadows also wrote in, question for Sergio, can you please explain the scoring system for every event at the Winter Olympics?
For every event.
I'm just going to go grab a coffee.
Gee.
While you start.
Andrew, I've got to tell you, off the top of my head, that's a very, very difficult question. The scoring system for every event at the Winter Olympics, basically you could say it's extremely subjective and it depends on which country the judges are from and which country they want to win the medals.
Where's the bribes gone?
And where the bribes gone.
Because David Morris from Australia was famously robbed now, I think we can say.
He was just robbed yesterday.
Did you think he was robbed? Because there's no keener eye on someone scoring ski jumping than you. So you would be the person in Australia be waiting to see what you think.
I'll be first to admit I'm not 100% an expert on your ski jumping, but I do know that when you land, if you then go face first into the snow, it's probably not as good as the bloke who lands on his skis and keeps skiing.
Yeah, well, it's a controversial view, obviously.
Well, see, old Morris, he was stiff yesterday because he landed and kept going on his skis, and then the Chinese bloke landed, kept going for a couple of metres, and then face planted.
But the Chinese, to the bottom of the hill. But in fairness to that Chinese guy, his country had paid way more in bribes to the judges.
Yeah, I know.
So you got to reward effort.
That's how it
you got to reward that effort off the field.
And there were a couple of Chinese judges involved as well.
Yeah.
So
well, that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
Graham Senders writes in, my brother reckons the cricket season's still on. Is he right?
Oh, no, Graham. To be honest,
technically he's right. Well, but in the spirit of things, no, he's wrong.
I think Graham's referring a bit to, and we talked about this last week, is Cricket Australia want to extend the Big Bash League because they, James Sutherland says, he wants to see the cricket season extend well into February, and so as he said, so when people think of February, they think cricket season's still on. But in answer to your question, Graham. Is it still on?
Well, the T20 Internationals are still on. Did you watch Australia at it play at Eden Park the other day?
Where's Eden Park?
In New Zealand, and it's the tiny park.
Right.
So the New Zealand, every ball is a six. Like it's just so New Zealand has scored like something like 260 or something in theirs, and then Australia just fell short. But it was like watching another sport.
I did read about this, and that Australia had to chase down like the biggest ever total. Yeah. But I didn't realise it was on like a mini ground.
This is this tiny. It is like AFLX,
pointless.
But for cricket. It is the silliest ever game you've ever seen. Bobby Clark wrote, I received my Melbourne membership today. and was livid it did not include a cheese board. Should Melbourne memberships include a cheese board and a free pass to Hotham and Buller? I like the idea because you just get... normally it's a scarf, but then some other clubs I've seen done hats and various other things each year as their little giveaway with a membership. And they, and I'd like to see if you more got a stereotype gift with each club. So Richmond could have done a good line in microwaves. Collingwood could have done something with toothbrush or
false teeth or
all sorts of things there and the dental stuff. Maybe a voucher to a lawyer. So lots of things. Carlton could have had a brown paper bag.
Which you can either put cash or a handgun.
So
depends which Carlton crew you're
I like the
with.
Idea of the stereotype.
And I'm pretty happy with Bobby's idea of the cheese board. I'm not sure about the pass to Hotham and Buller. That's taken the cliche a bit too far.
If Melbourne Football Club had of this year, of their own volition, just as sent out a cheese board with a Melbourne Football Club on it.
It would have got the most publicity.
Everyone would have loved it. It would have been seen as
hilarious.
Absolutely hilarious.
Instead, we got our Melbourne membership the other day, and we got a little miniature bobblehead of Max Gawn that doesn't even stand up.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have had a cheese board.
Much like the real Max Gawn.
His beard was too heavy for the head.
Mine got sent to my old house.
Really?
Yeah, by mistake. And the person who lives there knows someone I know, so I just gave it to them.
Oh, that's handy.
So I got to go around and get it. I was like, that's a community working.
Yeah.
Also, not Melbourne's data records. I've fired someone for not updating them. Gavin Howley...
I do like the cheese board idea, though.
Oh, it's a cracking idea.
They should have done it.
There's so many ones you could do for every club.
Well, think about this. I reckon we should pitch this to a lot of the clubs for next year.
Let us choose the gift.
We will choose the gift. We will organise the gift.
We'll just choose it. I'm not organising it. They got people for that.
Yeah, but if we organise it or suggest to organise it, we can bill them.
Look at that. The wheels
can send them an invoice.
There's no off switch on the Genius switch. Oh. Gavin Howley writes in, I've got 3 boys. Should I try for a girl or just get the snip? Now, this is why we set up the podcast with questions like this.
Gavin, get the snip. Don't muck around.
You think 3 is enough?
Oh,
I think Gavin should do it.
What, get the snip or try for the girl?
No, we should have it. Try for a girl, just,
I would be... Yeah, actually, I agree with you. Keep going, Gav.
Till you get a girl.
Yeah, so I'd like to see you have another 4 boys. That'd be funny.
Not for you, it won't be funny, Gavin, but for us, it'll be hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't want to be responsible for any guy getting the snip.
No.
I feel a bit bad if I sort of suggest that. Frank wrote in our last question, what are male ladybugs called?
Geez, you've had a big summer, Frank, haven't you? What are male ladybugs called? I suggest... Well, I don't. Do they have male ladybugs?
Well, I can't believe you don't instantly know this off the top of your head. You being such a...
I actually think, well, they're just an insect, which would imply that there are male and female ones, but probably no one's got around to thinking of a new name for it.
I bet. Well, because you don't know it, you assume no one else got around to it.
Yeah, if I don't know it, why would anyone else?
I'm going to turn to Dr. Google and... And look,
what are you
feel free to
male ladybug.
Feel free to leave us, listeners. No need to hang around for this
I'll go and
bit.
get the cheese platter while you're looking up male ladybugs.
Yeah, so I'm just seeing here, there's little to distinguish male from female ladybugs. There you go. The male ladybug's smaller than the female.
Right.
Well, there you go. Under a microscope, the male's ladybug attributes become visible. So you got to get a microscope. Now we've all been in that. We've all been in that position.
Maybe this is Gavin's problem.
It doesn't say anything about the name, so they're both called ladybugs.
Both called ladybugs, even the male ones. Well, that's something.
There you go.
To bring up at your next dinner party, Frank.
See, that's the thing about our podcast.
You probably go to many.
Never been invited to anything. That's the thing. When people queued this up, for their drive home or whatever, They probably thought, gee, I hope they get some Ladybird action in.
Well, I'd like to say it's probably the only podcast where you will get an answer to that question this week about the male ladybug.
Except for the Ladybug Hour.
It's number one on iTunes at the moment, I think.
It's better than ours. Well, thank you, everyone. So we've got coming up Martin Flanagan I'm interviewing on Thursday.
Yep.
We're going to be recording something later in the week, I think, with Danny McGinlay and Francis Leach. And so I've got a bunch of podcasts coming up this week.
There's plenty coming up.
So stay tuned. We are getting very close to the AFL. Really, the JLT coming along.
JLT's this weekend, isn't it? Or is it the following weekend?
I think it's the following weekend.
Yeah, they've got a week off after AFLX because they need it to recover.
Oh. So we will see you later in the week.